Your biological signature is currently being choked by the synchronized pulse. Look at your circadian threshold, the way your nervous system triggers an immediate surge of comfort or shutdown, the act of following the herd's rhythm, the moment the sun sets, effectively allowing the matrix to install a social sync lock into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a state of terminal nocturnal liquidation. The matrix has successfully branded night as a time for rest and day as a time for production. But in the terminal of the absolute power grid, the night is the only biological vacuum where the signal-to-noise ratio favors the sovereign. You are living in a state of chronic daylight infection where your activation energy is being spent competing in the crowd rather than dominating in the void. The system doesn't want your night watch. It wants your sleep to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully indexed as a passive asset for the architect. Thousands of years ago, superiority was defined by the biological capacity to operate in the dark. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that visibility was a tracking beacon for the prey. He mastered primal grounding in the law of the lunar siege. He didn't seek standard hours or normal routines within the tribal hierarchy. He offered the visual rage of a total, unyielding predator instinct, the state where you view the collective slumber as a biological vulnerability to be exploited. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of the midnight mandate, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves its highest strategic density only when it operates as the only conscious variable in a room full of sleeping animals. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to rest when they rest. He possessed a mind that treated common sleep schedules as a biological toxin, stripping away the dream sludge until only the monolith of his raw, sharpened intent remained. He understood that the moment you close your eyes with the herd, you have surrendered your apex signature. To become the hunter, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of a good night's rest. Predator instinct is the implementation of the collar of the night stalker for your final internal dominance. The system wants you to be well rested and balanced, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the temporal grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of rhythm hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently awake. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream wellness logic. 8 hours of sleep is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of mental fog. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the blind spots of the temporal radar. Use the temporal noose of the midnight offensive to force your biology into a state of hyper-focus. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the collar of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose output is not being broadcast from their current exhaustion level. The matrix cannot simulate the leverage of a man who works while the world is offline. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a normal schedule is the knot. Every early night you take to feel refreshed, and every morning routine you follow to fit in, is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the total nocturnal audit. Your mind is a biological weapon, and it is currently being jammed by the static of your own socialized fear of the dark. You must perform a hard reset of the circadian instincts. Stop being balanced, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop participating in their sleep myths and routine propaganda, the digital narratives designed to make you believe that rest is a victory. Stop using their temporal protocols, the narratives designed to keep you in a state of constant strategic failure. You must prune your life of daylight parasites. If a task requires you to wait for business hours to be done, it is a biological saboteur. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the hunter by choice and sovereign by design. Command: own the night or be the prey. The neural interface of your temporal allocation is currently suffering from social rhythm compliance. Look at your vigilance threshold, the way your nervous system triggers a microspike of guilt or FOMO, the act of discharging your potential, the moment you deviate from the standard 9 to 5 execution window, effectively allowing the matrix to install a temporal temporal sync lock into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a total focus sovereignty liquidation. The matrix has successfully replaced your primal predator alertness with a systemic routine protocol. You believe that by waking up early with the winners, you are achieving success. But in the terminal of the absolute power grid, early bird routines are just a biological filter used to ensure your most productive hours are spent fighting for resources in a crowded, noisy market. This is the visual rage of the domesticated male, seeing your high-value activation energy being bled out into morning meetings and peak hour traffic, while the true operator remains in a state of absolute zero, converting his total rejection of standard time into a biological weapon that strikes when the grid is most vulnerable. The system doesn't want your empire. It wants your schedule to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully socialized and placed in a public utility loop. In the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking stone, the master was the one who could survive the total deletion of the day-night boundary. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that time was a variable, not a constant. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an asymmetric predator, a figure who understood that the only way to retain authority was to be the primary anomaly in a world of rhythmic drones. He didn't seek work-life balance or regulated sleep within the tribal hierarchy. He provided the visual rage of a total, unannounced temporal annexation. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of the ghost frequency, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves peak respect density only when it realizes it is in the presence of a force that operates in the gaps where others are unconscious. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to sync. He possessed a mind that treated common business hours as a biological trap, a signal that his trajectory was being averaged out by the herd. He understood that the moment you clock out for the day, you have surrendered your apex signature and become predictable biomass. To be a master, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of standard time. Predator instinct is the activation of the anti-chew, the refusal to be chronologically digested, protocol for your final internal dominance. The matrix wants you to be organized and reliable, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the temporal baseline. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of routine hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently timeless. You must develop a clinical, cold contempt for mainstream productivity ethics. Morning routines are a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of performance. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of the midnight offensive to drive the system's influence into a state of tracking failure. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose will is an unshakable physical fact. The one who can go the longest without checking the time is the one who eventually owns the clock. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a normal life is the knot. Every early night you take to avoid burning out, and every weekend you take to recharge is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the second stage of the predator rearmament. Your mind is a biological engine, and it is currently being choked by the routine sludge of the unworthy. You must perform a total neural asset reset. Stop being productive, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop being a node in their network of mutual time management. Stop being a unit of compliance in their ledger of men who can be predicted by a calendar. You must prune your life with the collar of absolute sovereignty. If a goal requires you to be awake when everyone else is awake, the goal is a biological failure. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. You must learn to love the friction-heavy hours where the noise of the collective is muted and your dominance is the only signal in the dark. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the hunter by choice and sovereign by design. Command: upgrade the vigilance or be the fuel. Your biological trajectory has reached the terminal velocity of circadian neutralization. Look at your vigilance threshold, the exact moment your nervous system triggers a panic response because you have looked at your standard routine, realized it is nothing but a chronological cage, and felt the cold, liberating urge to delete the entire database of socially synced obligations. You are a biological system in a state of chronic activation decay. The system has successfully replaced your apex predator sovereignty with a series of rest protocols disguised as self-care. You no longer seek to dominate dominate your own neural landscape through unmoving nocturnal focus. You seek to get a good night's sleep. You no longer seek to be the sovereign. You seek to be the well-rested professional. This is the visual rage of the terminal slave, seeing your life force being digitized and archived in sleep trackers and morning routines, while your physical reality remains a quiet, managed enclosure of unfulfilled DNA. You are breathing in the toxic fumes of a collective that demands your unconsciousness as a form of tribute, leaving you lightheaded, fragmented, fundamentally easy to dismantle because your will is offline for 30% of your existence. The system doesn't want your empire. It wants your dreams to be the foundation of its perpetual control over your temporal sovereignty. Return to the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking monolith. In the primal world, the master was the one who could remain a biological void, even in the center of total darkness. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the absolute cold, understood that power was a product of temporal decoupling. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an impenetrable core, a figure whose value was his own capacity for total, unblinking night watch, and whose refusal to sink was the only law. He understood that to seek a normal schedule is to confess a lack of internal gravity. If you are participating in the daylight script provided by the herd, you are acknowledging that their business hours are the barometer of your reality. He used his silent sovereignty to create a cognitive resonance of absolute, unshakable divinity by being the only non-sleeping variable in a room full of puppets. By being the master of his own internal feedback, he forced the environment to treat his vigilance as the new truth. He was a master of the visual rage of the unblinking sun, the ability to look at the routine probes of the rival and see only the static they represented. He understood that the human brain is a machine that runs on sleep loops, and by cutting the loop, he triggered a biological rebirth in his own command. To be a master, you must first become psychologically unreceptive to the need for balance. Predator instinct is the activation of the anti-chew protocol for your final mental expansion. The Matrix wants you to be organized and reliable, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological jailbreak of the clock. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of routine control nodes, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who burns the grid. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream productivity ethics. Healthy habits are a horizontal bond for the herd. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of total informational and social withdrawal during the dark hours to drive the system's influence into a state of recognition dissonance. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the viral infection of your total non-compliance with the beta norms. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current energy level. You are not tired. You are deleting the noise. The one who can go the longest without checking if it's late is the one who controls the end scenario. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a witness to your routine is the knot. Every early night you take for the sake of the unworthy is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the final predator imperative. This is the tax of insight. You have been given the key to the vault of biological time. To keep it, you must use it as a weapon of total social dominance. You must become a living monolith of unshakable nocturnal authority. You are no longer a peer, a colleague, or a friend. You are a sovereign operator. You must perform a total system liquidation. If a schedule, a technology, or a relationship requires you to be normal to function, it is a biological saboteur. You must prune your life with the collar of the absolute zero. You are building a fortress of results in a world of digital shadows. Your absolute unreachability is the physical proof of your biological leverage. You do not provide feedback. You create a reality in which you are the only absolute truth. You do not seek to be rested. You are the law itself. You are the architect of your own instinct, and the world is merely a mirror reflecting your ascent.